The Alioth Empire was home to divine beasts. Mythical creatures once soared above the Empire's cities. These sacred beasts belonged to 4 revered ducal houses, but the House of Munlef angered its divine beast. The Duke was imprisoned, leaving his young son to rule. His name was Edinburgh Munlef, the new young Duke. Without a beast, the Munlef family faced ridicule and calls for demotion from other nobles, who declared there were now only 3 ducal houses. Kneeling before the throne, Edinburgh received one final chance from the emperor. An audience gathers for a dangerous summoning ritual. A spectator expresses doubt about summoning an ancient creature. A red-haired man accepts they have no choice, as the court has already approved it. Thud, a robed figure holding a staff, tells Edinburgh to begin the summoning, and he agrees. Edinburgh resolves to seize this last chance to end his family's disgrace. Stepping into the magic circle, he vows to subdue whatever appears. He is determined to restore his house's honor. He draws his sword, prepared for the unknown. His loyal knights stand ready behind him. Chains of dark energy seem to hold them in place. Thud. The staff strikes the glowing summoning circle. A torrent of purple energy erupts from the circle. Edinburgh braces himself, sensing the overwhelming power being unleashed. He nervously wonders what kind of massive being will emerge. From the brilliant flash of light, a tiny voice cries out, "Pia!" A small, dazed baby dragon appears, letting out a soft squeak. Edinburgh can only stare in disbelief. His knights, a gray-haired man and a green-haired man, share his confusion. The tiny creature looks up from the floor, and someone thinks it's unexpectedly small and cute. Edinburgh suspects its adorable appearance might be a deceptive trap. The creature sits up, looking around curiously while someone wonders what it is. The tiny dragon sleepily rubs its eyes. It recalls napping peacefully in a sunlit garden, thinking it's still half asleep. The small creature, a seal, is still groggy. It lets out a huge sleepy stretch. Edinburgh and his knights look on, completely baffled. A seal stumbles and begins to cry, thinking it's hurt. The onlookers are stunned, realizing the creature just communicated. Crying in mid-air, a seal realizes this isn't a dream, causing panic below. As the creature cries out, a hand tightens its grip on a sword. Edinburgh commands his knights to stay calm and prepare for battle. He finds it strange, sensing no beastkin aura from the crying creature. A seal, looking at the armored men, realizes with a shock that they aren't beastkin, but actual humans. It stares in terror, having only ever read about humans in books. In a memory, a woman with light hair explains that a seal is fated to be summoned by this world's male lead and die as a mere extra. She gently reassures the sleepy Asil not to worry. The woman reveals that Asil can survive and change the story by following her instructions. Her advice echoes, the boy has a dark past, so Asil must comfort him and mend his relationship with his estranged father. The memory of her instructions lingers in a peaceful setting. Asil is bewildered as the woman explains the boy's father will want to call it father-in-law. The woman firmly instructs Asil to step aside for the human heroine. Asil gives a sleepy nod of agreement, not quite grasping the plan. Asil looks up at the humans, suddenly regretting not listening to its mother. But it quickly rallies, remembering 2 very important things because it's smart. It realizes the blonde boy must be its husband, and the man with him must be its father-in-law. As Edinburgh stares in shock, Asil emphatically declares that boy is its husband. The tiny dragon begins wailing for its husband over and over again. Watching the tearful creature tremble, a knight murmurs that it looks pitiful. Sobbing, Asil's thoughts turn to a white handkerchief. In a memory, its teacher explains that communication is possible even without words. The teacher demonstrates, showing that a white handkerchief signals peace and an absence of harm. Returning to the present, a seal clutches its own white bandana. The tiny dragon suddenly holds up its bandana like a flag, shouting that it surrenders. Edinburgh warily tells his knights to stay alert, sensing something big is about to happen as a seal trembles. The little dragon continues to cry out while frantically waving its makeshift white flag. With a desperate thought, a seal turns and runs, announcing its complete surrender. It toddles forward as fast as it can, proudly waving the flag of surrender. Thump! The tiny dragon trips and tumbles, its white flag flying through the air. The knights observe the scene, one realizing it's waving a white flag to surrender. Edinburgh silently watches the display, wondering if the creature even understands them. Exhausted and dejected, a seal cries softly on the floor, whimpering its surrender. Edinburgh hangs his cloak nearby and tells the creature he understands so it can stop crying, but a seal mistakes the gesture as a gift. Overjoyed, a seal snuggles into the soft white fabric, rubbing its face against it. Edinburgh turns to a robed mage, asking for a translation spell, which the mage confirms is possible. As the mage's staff glows, the knights guess the creature is begging for its life. Edinburgh listens intently as the spell takes effect. A seal continues to cry, clutching the soft white cloth. In a grand hall, a man formally apologizes to the Duke for his rudeness. He continues, observing that the tiny creature in the carriage seems too small to be a divine beast. The man suggests a resummoning, reminding Edinburgh of the high cost already paid. Pushed along in a golden carriage, a confused Asil looks around the opulent hallway. A dark-haired man earnestly protests the idea to the Duke. Holding Asil gently, Edinburgh says they can decide what to do after he meets the creature. The men approach a set of magnificent golden doors. Asil hangs limply in someone's hands, its mind racing with worry about what will happen next. Now held by Edinburgh, Asil is terrified, believing it's about to be roasted and eaten. Edinburgh places Asil on a table, kindly telling it that it doesn't have to use his name if it doesn't want to. He gently clarifies that he was simply telling the creature his name. Asil cautiously decides that since he shared his name, he probably won't eat it right away, and happily introduces itself. Edinburgh looks down at the tiny dragon, which looks back up inquisitively. Edinburgh wonders aloud what kind of power it possesses, imagining a devastating spell or immense strength. The seal recalls a vision of a beautiful, angelic figure healing a wounded man. Edinburgh guesses its power might be seeing the future, but Asil shakes its head no. Leaning closer, Edinburgh rests a hand on the table and asks, "Then what can you do?"
Asil proudly demonstrates its skills, climbing trees and swimming, leaving Edinburgh to facepalm, thinking they're doomed.
As Edinburgh despairs, a worried Asil wonders what it should do to prove its worth. Terrified of being eaten, Asil desperately offers to sing and begs its husband not to eat it. The tiny dragon sits dejectedly among flowers, letting out a sad whimper. Edinburgh pinches the bridge of his nose, looking utterly exasperated by the situation. A knock sounds as a servant announces that the Duke's meal has arrived. Edinburgh grants them entry, privately reasoning that a fed monster is less likely to become ferocious. As a food cart is wheeled in, he scoffs at his own caution, while Asil looks on in curiosity.
As a platter is lifted with a clatter, a shocked Asil gasps at what lies beneath.
On a bed of salad greens lies a tiny, sad-looking white rabbit. A young blonde Edinburgh asks if the rabbit is too small, offering to bring a bigger one. Edinburgh reassures Asil, telling it to eat comfortably and that he won't take its food. A seal internally protests eating a rabbit friend as an impatient Edinburgh urges it to eat. Pip, a seal, suddenly flies away, startling Edinburgh, who shouts after the dangerous creature. It flies toward the window, thinking it can finally return home if it escapes the room. A seal heads for the door, planning to use its return spell to get back to the beast folks' forest. Reaching the door, Azil despairs that the doorknob is too high and it can't fly yet. It strains with all its might, trying to push the massive door open just a little. Defeated, Azil slides down the door, letting out a sad little whimper. While Edinburgh wonders what's happening, his servants think the divine beast is incredibly cute. Determined to escape to its mom, Azil focuses on the doorknob before it gets caught. Azil gathers its power, summoning a brilliant surge of crackling pink energy. The magical energy erupts in a massive, blinding flash. A huge beam of energy shoots from Azil, which looks back in complete surprise. The blast obliterates the doors, shocking the onlookers who wonder how it happened. A stunned Edinburgh stares at the tiny dragon and asks, "Did you just breathe fire?" A crying Azil is horrified, thinking it didn't mean to break the door. Servants rush down a gilded hallway with a cart, wondering about the commotion. One man confirms to a disbelieving colleague that the tiny monster destroyed the orichalcum gate. The doors creak open to reveal Edinburgh holding a dejected Azil, an aide by his side. Edinburgh tells Azil it will have to stay in a new room until the repairs are finished. Azil sits with the sleeping rabbit, relieved it wasn't roasted, and its bunny friend is alive. It proudly concludes that the humans must be scared because Azil is a strong dragon. But its mood falls, realizing the human world's mana is too low to cast a return spell. Vowing to survive until its mom arrives, Azil searches the room for a specific item. Among its toys, Azil uses a small portal to summon a book from the library. Flash, it finds the book, Surviving Encounters with Humans, a complete guide. Azil reads that it should run, but realizes there are no adult beastkin here to help. The book's next page shows a knight, advising it to not give up the fight. Lying on the book, Azil reads that it must act ferocious so humans won't look down on it. Azil hops up and down, psyching itself to be intimidating. Puffing out its chest, Azil fiercely declares that it is a ferocious dragon. It practices its mighty roar, confusing the nearby white rabbit with its tiny squeaks. The scene shifts to a grand, empty hall filled with ornate chandeliers. A dark-haired aide informs Elcane that the Duke insisted the matter be kept secret. Azil flinches, suddenly waking up next to its sleeping bunny friend. Seeing Elcane and his aide enter, Azil recognizes the aide but wonders about the other man. Poke! Azil desperately tries to wake the sleeping bunny. It looks up in terror at Elcane, identifying him as the dangerous one. A brilliant if questionable idea suddenly strikes the tiny dragon. Azil boldly greets a stunned Elcane as its father-in-law. It pleads with him not to eat it or its bunny, insisting they won't taste good. Elcane scoffs at being called father-in-law, stating he has no such daughter-in-law. The scene shifts to a young Edinburgh who politely welcomes his guest. Holding Azil, Elcane tells Edinburgh he's never heard of such a thing in his life. Elcane mockingly asks Edinburgh what he thinks of the little booger wanting to be his new stepmother. Azil frantically denies being a stepmother as the three men stare it down. Elcane and Edinburgh look down with grim expressions, pondering the strange situation. Azil remembers its mother's warning about a specific person, Elcane Munlef, the male lead's grandfather. Munch, Azil eats a strawberry while recalling that Elcane dislikes it for resembling a wyvern, though it insists it's not one. The stern, blonde-haired Elcane appears, and Azil remembers its mother said the grandfather-in-law is sick.
Elcane stands over a small crib, demanding to know what abilities the tiny creature possesses.
From behind, Elcane, Edinburgh, and another man watch as Elcane asks if it has incredible strength or skill with magic. A seal proudly announces its talents for climbing trees, swimming, and singing. Puffing out its chest, a seal stands proudly, but the blonde man looks unimpressed. A man standing beside Elcane notes that the creature's name is Asil and that it wasn't lying. Edinburgh steps in, stating that Asil breathed fire the day before. A flashback shows Asil's powerful fire destroying the massive Orichalcum gate. The blonde man reels back in complete shock, exclaiming, "What?" Asil panics, realizing its husband snitched and now fears becoming a roasted baby dragon. Elcane strokes his chin, deep in thought. He scoffs, dismissing Asil as a pathetic-looking booger, leaving the creature stunned. Stomping its tiny feet, Asil fumes over the insult to a beastkin that reveres strength. Peep! The enraged dragon lets out a furious squeak. Peep! With a fierce glare, Asil resolves to show him just how ferocious a dragon it can be. Elcane looks down, baffled, and asks what on earth is wrong with that booger. Inspired by a fairy tale, Asil decides to kidnap the grandfather-in-law and teach him a lesson. Asil lets out a tiny, ferocious roar, causing the man before it to stumble back in surprise. Having made its point, Asil quietly slips out of the room. Peeking from behind a door, Asil comes face to face with a small white rabbit. The new friends, Asil and the rabbit, scamper down a grand corridor together. Two men walk and talk as they proceed down a long, arched hallway. One of the men asks if Lord Elcane really said that, surprised he dislikes Asil for being small. His companion confirms Elcane called her a pipsqueak, and they agree the name is perfect.
Gah! Asil seethes, having become a laughingstock, and vowing to teach the grandfather a lesson immediately.
Squeak! The small white rabbit tries to calm the fuming little dragon. Asil's anger is suddenly derailed by the thought of sweet strawberries. The dragon melts into a happy daydream about delicious strawberries. Shaking itself back to reality, Asil sits with a notepad, pondering the insult pipsqueak as its rabbit friend watches. For several days, Asil and its rabbit friend sneak around the estate, gathering information. The rabbit keeps a lookout while gathering intel. Asil focuses intently, taking diligent notes in its small pad. With a smug look, Asil concludes it has gathered enough information. The little dragon is struck by a moment of shocked realization. Cue. Asil collapses into a puddle of despair, believing its plans are ruined as the rabbit looks on. In a sunlit hall, a voice calls out to Your Grace. A servant presents a small notepad on a tray to Edinburgh, explaining that Lady Asil must have dropped it. Edinburgh picks up the tiny notepad, asking where it was found. A maid explains it was discovered in the hallway near the west reception room. Realizing Asil was far from its room, Edinburgh wonders if he should take a quick peek inside the notepad. He finds cheerful drawings of the estate and its people, realizing Asil has been exploring everywhere. A warm smile spreads across Edinburgh's face, relieved that the little creature is adjusting so well. A fierce thunderstorm crashes over the grand mansion. Asil looks downcast, lamenting that the Asil kidnapping operation was a huge failure. Edinburgh watches the creature, thinking the rain has made it seem down. Asil's tail wags excitedly as it remembers the grandfather's dinner invitation, seeing it as a chance for more recon. All gloom forgotten, the little dragon happily chants about the promise of fresh strawberries. Edinburgh realizes his worrying was for nothing as the cheerful Asil happily bounces around his feet. A vision of sparkling strawberries appears. The table is a paradise of strawberry desserts, and someone thinks it's perfect.
Asil dramatically faints at Edinburgh's feet with a happy sigh.
Now held by a servant, Asil looks on with wide, startled eyes.
At the dinner table, Asil furiously declares it's not a pipsqueak, but Elcane coldly dismisses the topic.
Elcane scolds the creature for its terrible manners, questioning why they continue to indulge it.
Edinburgh silently notes that Asil isn't normally this stubborn, blaming its mood on the rain.
Edinburgh asks Elcane for more time to make his decision, and his grandfather agrees.
Elcane trusts Edinburgh's judgment, and the boy promises not to disappoint him.
Its defiance forgotten, Asil happily munches on a slice of strawberry cake. Elcane observes with a small smile, thinking the creature certainly has a hearty appetite.
As Asil stuffs a whole strawberry into its mouth, he wonders if his cheeks will burst. Elcane tells Edinburgh he plans a garden walk to see the autumn leaves, and an excited Asil immediately declares it will join them.
Elcane gently tells Edinburgh not to push himself.
He advises his grandson to get some proper sleep, and the boy quietly agrees. Dressed as a detective, Asil proudly declares its own deductive reasoning is amazing.
The little dragon strikes a determined pose in its new detective outfit.
Asil's investigation continues from the cover of some bright orange bushes.
10 days later, Elcane and Edinburgh walk through the garden, with Elcane noting his grandson looks well, though the boy disagrees. Elcane glances down, muttering about that little thing.
He recalls his initial impression, thinking Asil was a wyvern hatchling.
A dark-haired man beside Edinburgh agrees that it would make sense if it were a small reptile.
Elcane fondly remembers Asil's tiny mouth munching on strawberries, amazed by its appetite.
He concedes that at the very least, the little creature is cheerful.
Elcane muses over how Asil called him grandfather, and wonders why it keeps an eggshell on its head, while Asil internally corrects his assumptions.
He lets out a hearty laugh, admitting that Asil is an amusing creature.
The dark-haired man suggests Elcane's stern nature comes from a life on the battlefield, which led to Edinburgh maturing too quickly.
Elcane is flustered as he's surrounded by adorable visions of Asil, proving he is defenseless against cuteness. As the two men walk, one is told that someone will join them after finishing his work. Elcane complains that the family's elders summoned a monster yet hasn't bothered to show his face.
He impatiently orders his attendant to fetch the elder at once. A tiny voice cuts through the air as Asil calls out, "Grandfather!"
Asil runs toward him, announcing that it needs him to come along for a moment. Elcane asks why, and the little dragon mysteriously tells him to follow and see.
The dark-haired attendant is stunned by Asil's audacity in speaking to Lord Elcane so informally.
Elcane orders his attendant to stay behind, and the man reluctantly agrees. Following the tiny creature, Elcane warns it will be in trouble if this is for nothing. Asil happily clings to his leg, instructing him to follow closely, much to Elcane's bemusement. The dark-haired attendant watches them go, thinking the sight is unbelievably cute. Asil proudly announces the success of its kidnapping operation, leading a stoic Elcane into a grand hall. Inside another mansion, a man complains about Edinburgh summoning a pathetic monster. The blonde-haired man slams his fist on his desk, wishing the beast had killed Edinburgh. He angrily demands to know why he was summoned. Frustrated, he complains about his efforts to secure the dukedom and questions if they're truly accepting the new creature.
A brown-haired man clarifies that the monster spat fire, so they are merely observing it for now, piquing the other's interest.
The brown-haired man adds a rumor that the new duke smashed an orichalcum gate with his bare hands. The blonde-haired man scoffs, dismissing the claim as nonsense. In a flashback, two men stand before a massive gate, agreeing that even an explosion couldn't scratch it, but that they must investigate since the beast's chamber is under repair.
The brown-haired man laughs at the absurdity of the rumor.
The blond man seethes, wishing his father had been more discerning and lamenting that his handsome older brother was chosen as the next duke.
A resentful blonde-haired man with purple eyes laments that his father only favors that family, insisting he is a child of the same father. In an office, the blonde man discusses the monster with a brown-haired companion who confirms it's described as a lizard that looks like a wyvern. The brown-haired man explains that their father, a lifelong wyvern hunter, would be sickened by the mere mention of the word and wouldn't draw his sword.
The blond man smirks, grabbing a bottle of wine and noting that his father always keeps one at his side, which his companion understands.
With a pleasant smile, the blond man happily admires the bottle of red wine.
He reels back in shock, questioning why the man who was never kind to his own family is now making such a fuss over the creature.
He confronts his companion, asking for confirmation that their father wasn't planning to make the creature a divine beast, but receives a hesitant answer.
Talk. The blond man slams his hand on a stand, demanding to know what the hesitation means and insisting their father is raising a divine beast.
With a dark expression, the blond man realizes this could be an opportunity for them, which confuses his companion.
The brown-haired man devilishly suggests killing the creature with the blond man's sacred beast.
He immediately bows in apology, realizing he would be punished for killing a divine beast, and admitting he didn't think it through.
The blonde man reveals a sinister plan. If they kill the creature before it officially becomes a divine beast, there will be no problem. He confidently pours a glass of wine, ordering his man to send a bear sacred beast ahead with a message, since he cannot go personally. As a monstrous bear lumbers forward, he muses that it will arrive at the castle just as it did before. The blonde man takes a sip of wine with a satisfied, villainous smirk.
His companion worries the Duke could summon another monster, but the blonde man dismisses the idea, certain the Duke lacks the funds.
Raising his glass in a toast, he declares that once they kill that one creature, Edinburgh is finished. A new scene begins with a close-up of Rope as a voice demands to know why adults were called.
The camera pans up to show hands bound tightly with thick rope.
A mustached elder sits on the floor, all tied up, as tiny Asil proudly announces its success. Asil strikes a cute but menacing pose, determined to show grandfather its scary side.
The tied-up elder questions the situation, and Asil panics, pleading for him not to untie the ropes. As Asil and its rabbit friend whisper conspiratorially, the confused elder wonders what they're plotting.
The tiny dragon and rabbit continue their hushed, urgent discussion. The elder, now sitting with his arms crossed over the ropes, orders Asil to get down, but the creature stubbornly sits on his lap.
Gently prodding its tail, the elder calls Asil a rascal, noting there is plenty of space.
His demeanor softens as he pets Asil, surprised by the soft feeling.
Asil looks up with wide eyes as the elder continues to gently pet it. A close-up on the elder's eye shows his sternness melting away as he simply says, "Okay." The elder drifts into a happy daydream, imagining Asil singing, playing with a ball, and climbing a tree. He raises his hands in delight, lost in the thought of Asil picking an acorn for him. Asil looks up in concern, noticing its grandfather has frozen mid-pet, lost in his happy thoughts.
Thump! Asil readies itself to act, determined to show its ferocious side with a tiny squeak. A maid interrupts the moment, rolling in a cart and announcing snack time for Lord Asil. Asil's ferocity vanishes at the mention of strawberries, much to the comical surprise of the still tied-up elder. Beaming at a basket of strawberries, Asil resolves to wait patiently despite wanting to eat them immediately. Asil holds the basket and tells its bunny friend that children eat later, leaving the rabbit stunned. Cuckoo? The elder pops a whole strawberry into his mouth, and Asil is shocked that he ate it in a single bite.
The elder, Asil,
and the rabbit all munch contentedly on strawberries together.
In an instant, the basket is empty, containing only a pile of strawberry leaves.
Cradling the empty basket, Asil begins to cry, wailing in despair.
A heartbroken Asil trudges down a long, empty hall, wanting to be alone.
The little dragon sulks in a dark corner, filled with regret for kidnapping its grandfather.
Asil cries, lamenting that it only ate one strawberry and failed to prove how ferocious it is.
From behind a corner, Asil overhears a discussion about Bionte's guardian bear arriving soon and how it caused trouble before.
The tiny dragon peeks around the corner, its curiosity piqued by the news.
Two maids discuss the situation, one worrying they can't stop Bionte's guardian beast from entering the mansion.
Asil listens as the maids agree to be on guard, and the little dragon wonders just how scary this bear friend is.
Asil hatches a brilliant plan. If it scolds the bear everyone fears, it will become the scariest one of all, ready to be a terrifying dragon.
As a caged bear arrives at the mansion, Edinburgh warns someone off-screen that his uncle's bear is dangerous, and they should stay with a night escort.
As Edinburgh wipes Asil's face, he notes that it's spilled. While an observer muses, he treats the creature like a baby.
A flustered brown-haired man in a formal uniform asks to be called Dylan.
Edinburgh watches Asil at the table, thinking the little dragon doesn't need an escort knight.
Asil proudly declares its name, and Dylan formally accepts his new post as its escort.
Knights whisper their plan to spread rumors of Asil being a fearsome dragon if their colleague witnesses it scolding the bear. Asil notices Dylan's trembling fist and innocently wonders if the knight is cold. Dylan grimaces, lamenting that he must now escort a lizard after thinking this was the perfect job. In a flashback, a younger Dylan cries in terror as a small lizard crawls on his leg.
Overwhelmed, Dylan sweats, worrying his family will disown him if he quits and wondering what to do.
He tells Asil he is heading to the training grounds, trying to convince himself this is a chance to overcome his trauma. Asil decides it needs to get close to the knight to secure him as a witness for its ferocity. The tiny dragon determinately waddles after the knight's departing leg.
Dylan asks where it's going, and Asil insists that it will follow him everywhere.
The sounds of training echo through the grand archways of the training grounds.
As Dylan practices, he's unnerved by Asil's intense stare, wondering why it's watching him.
Asil fondly recalls being closest to its tiger buddy back in beastkind kindergarten. With a fierce battle cry, Asil suddenly launches itself at a stunned Dylan.
A wooden training dummy flies past the knight's shocked face.
The tiny dragon demolishes several training dummies in a flurry of motion.
Asil poses proudly after obliterating a large dummy, leaving Dylan to stare in disbelief at the tiny thing.
When an angry voice demands to know who destroyed the grounds, a meek Asil apologizes. A fellow knight complains about the troublemaker Dylan is serving, much to his embarrassment.
Dylan hesitantly holds out a feathered toy on a stick.
With a happy squeal, Asil instantly pounces toward the toy.
Dylan waves the toy as Asil gleefully jumps and plays.
The knight reflects that, while his arm hurts, he feels he is slowly getting over his trauma.
Asil and its rabbit friend roll around, playing happily with the feather toy.
Clutching the toy, Asil decides it must give the human a precious gift in return.
The little dragon turns and opens a swirling, dark purple portal.
Gold coins pour out of the portal, and Asil tells the bewildered Dylan to treasure them. A close-up reveals a special gold coin decorated with cute animal characters. Holding the special coin, Asil excitedly tells Dylan they need to go somewhere.
Asil leads the knight down a hallway, urging him to be quiet.
Sniffing the ground, Asil announces that it can smell its bear friend approaching. Edinburgh appears, warning them not to go any further. He explains that a dangerous, sacred bear is ahead, and though he could win, he must not fight it. Ignoring the warning, Asil points down the hall with a determined cry.
Thud. A massive, ferocious bear with glowing red eyes stomps into view.
Drawing his sword, Dylan orders Asil behind him, ready for his first ducal mission.
As the bear roars, Dylan resolves to protect Asil no matter what. Suddenly, the knight flinches in complete shock at something he sees.
Asil floats forward with its arms crossed, radiating a powerful purple aura.
The tiny dragon lands a powerful punch directly on the giant bear's jaw.
The impact shatters the floor, and a horrified Dylan screams Asil's name.
The massive bear is sent flying backward, crashing through a solid stone archway. Asil stands triumphantly on the defeated bear, asking if Dylan saw how strong it was.
Standing amid the dust and debris, a stunned Dylan can only mutter, "No way."
From behind, two other men echo his disbelief.
Elcane and the resentful blonde man arrive with their retinue, staring at the impossible scene.
Edinburgh watches from the side, sweating and equally speechless.
Asil dozes peacefully in the garden, a single thought in its mind: kill.
Elsewhere, a blonde man,
A knight named Dylan introduces himself, confirming that Asil did indeed face the sacred bear beast by itself. Dylan trembles, confessing that he was protected by Lord Asil and feels like a complete failure as a knight.
The blonde man with the mustache sternly orders his aide to find out who opened the bear's cage.
Back in the garden, Asil waves with a surprised expression. In a flashback, Asil comforts a large bear who complains with a rumbling stomach that someone hit him while he was eating meat.
Growl. Too embarrassed to continue, the bear decides to lie down.
Asil and a smaller version of itself stand on the bear, mimicking a man with a beard and slanted eyes to get a description. With a flash of insight, Asil proudly announces that the culprit was a male human. The blonde man with the mustache listens to the report and realizes with a start that the description matches one of Beyonce's vassals.
Asil decides a little lie is acceptable to avoid turning its new bear friend into a tattletale.
A brown-haired man questions the report, wondering how anyone could see such details from far away.
Enraged, the blonde man with the mustache clenches his fist and orders his men to bring the vassal to him immediately or face death.
A shout of its name startles a sleeping Asil awake.
The blonde man with the mustache says he needs to ask more about the circumstances of the incident.
Dylan gently tries to hurry Asil along, but the tiny dragon remains hesitant.
A worried Asil looks on, clearly reluctant to go.
Asil toddles after the two men, calling for its grandfather to wait, but trips on its own bandana.
A hand reaches down and picks up the fallen, dirty white cloth.
The young blonde boy, Edinburgh, holds the bandana with a thoughtful and serious expression.
As Asil runs toward him, Edinburgh silently considers the fact that the tiny creature really did face the sacred beast all alone.
A subtle, knowing smile touches Edinburgh's lips. Under a full moon, a furious voice accosts someone for ordering their vassal to open the bear's cage, questioning if past incidents were also intentional.
A blonde man named Beyonce kneels before his father, pleading that it was a misunderstanding, but his father deems him unqualified to manage the divine beasts.
His father angrily gives him an ultimatum: hand over all the divine beasts to Edinburgh within 3 days. Beyonce desperately protests that it was just a mistake and the punishment is too harsh since no one was hurt. His father coldly retorts, asking if there's any need for 2 sons to exist in one family. In a dark cell, a gray-haired vassal realizes with dread that his master's ambition to become duke has been exposed to his father.
Beyonce furiously berates his subordinate for being so sloppy that he got caught by his father.
He's stunned to hear that the vassal not only failed to kill the mutant lizard, but was defeated by it.
He fumes, revealing he even fed the bear a drug to make it violent,
finding the entire situation absurd. Beyonce asks if the escort knight Dylan could be that strong, and an aide confirms he's a former royal knight with considerable skill.
A man with freckles insists that no matter how strong Dylan is, he couldn't have defeated a drugged divine beast.
Raging, Beyonce wonders what the lizard could be, questioning if it used an even stronger drug, as his aide promises to investigate.
Clenching his fist, Beyonce knows that looking into it won't solve the problem now.
He despairs, realizing his divine beast is gone. He must hand over the others, and that this is the end for him. Standing at the edge of a cliff, he reflects that it was his own father who pushed him to the brink.
Back in a study, Beyonce addresses a kneeling woman, asking if she came to him to save her husband.
The woman desperately begs Lord Beyonce for help, insisting her husband was only following his orders. Bianca scoffs dismissively, stating that her husband should have handled his task properly. As the woman begs for mercy, Beyonce coldly agrees to give her one more chance.
He offers her a chance to make up for her husband's mistake, and she tearfully asks how she can.
Beyonce informs her that he will arrange a meeting with his father in 2 days at noon.
He then hands her a small vial of green liquid, instructing her to put it in the wine bottle beforehand.
With the image of a shattered wine glass, he gives his final, chilling order: kill his father.
In the present, a seal frantically searches around a sofa, wondering where its handkerchief is gone. After checking under a cushion, it whimpers in distress. Oh no. P, realizing it has lost the precious handkerchief its mother made, a tearful Asil desperately misses her.
Hearing a knock, Asil looks toward the door, wondering if it's her husband, as a voice from outside says, "Yeah, come in."
Click. A blonde boy with purple eyes peeks into the room.
He notices Asil's red eyes, offering to leave, but the tiny dragon insists he stay.
Apologizing for his late arrival, he explains he has something to ask. He begins to speak to the small, curious dragon on the couch.
He recounts Asil's incredible feats, breathing fire and defeating a giant bear divine beast. Realizing he has caused his own share of trouble, the boy sits down thoughtfully.
He tells Asil that with its immense power, it could have easily defeated him and his knights.
Flustered, Asil recalls its teacher's warnings that humans are savages who eat beastmen.
The little dragon reaffirms to itself that it is smart and will not be deceived.
Asil puffs out its chest, declaring that humans are weak, and it was merely going easy on them to prove its ferocity.
The blonde boy listens with a gentle, amused smile. He offers a handkerchief, which Asil recognizes as its own.
Clutching the handkerchief to his chest, the boy looks down with a hint of sorrow.
He presents a gift box, explaining he bought a similar handkerchief for Asil.
Asil happily accepts the gift, calling him husband and thanking him. The boy worries he'll regret his decision, but then sees Asil has fashioned the handkerchief into a cute bow tie, proudly showing it off. He is captivated by Asil's sparkling eyes, which reflect only him.
As their hands meet, he decides that this time he doesn't want to have any regrets.
He recites a comforting verse about moonlight, then formally introduces himself as Edinburgh Munler. Edinburgh stands formally, hand over his heart, as he addresses the tiny dragon.
Asil, now wearing its new bow tie, looks up inquisitively.
Edinburgh smiles and begins to explain that a divine beast is the symbol and power of a noble family.
He asks if his explanation is too difficult, and Asil tilts its head in confusion.
Suddenly, Asil's eyes widen in a flash of brilliant understanding.
Realizing this means humans won't look down on it anymore, Asil proudly agrees to become his divine beast. Overjoyed, Edinburgh kneels and asks if it's true, as the little dragon toddles closer.
He gently scoops up the tiny, agreeable dragon. Edinburgh looks down at Asil, a surprised blush creeping onto his face.
Asil suddenly declares it doesn't like her husband, leaving Edinburgh completely bewildered. When he asks why, Asil explains its mommy said the boy who summoned it is its husband.
Asil clarifies that in the beastkin world, marriage is simply when two people who get along decide to live together.
Edinburgh realizes with a soft smile that Asil is also bound by its mother's words into a kind of arranged marriage.
In a painful memory, a young Edinburgh stares at his mother's portrait, believing a kind mother would have saved his father.
He clenches his fist, thinking their family wouldn't have fallen, and that he, the one who ruined them, could never be loved.
He accepted a political marriage to save his family, lamenting his fate while longing for a marriage of love like his parents had.
Startled from his thoughts, he hears Asil declare that of all humans, her husband is the very best.
In a cute chibi moment, Edinburgh's sweat drops, wondering just how many humans Asil has actually met.
Edinburgh is visibly touched by the innocent compliment.
Asil looks up with wide, earnest eyes, awaiting his reaction.
A genuine, blushing smile finally breaks across Edinburgh's face.
Seeing his smile, Asil celebrates with a happy little dance.
Edinburgh agrees to the marriage, musing that being ranked first out of 10 isn't so bad after all. The thought of marriage makes the tiny dragon blush and fidget. Edinburgh peeks from behind a doorway, his face alight with a shy, happy smile.
Having settled things, Asil drifts off into a peaceful sleep.
The scene shifts to a different, opulent room where a maid walks toward a table. The maid glances back with a nervous expression while carrying a bottle of wine. She presents the wine to the resentful blonde man, who watches her from near the window.
A butler reports that all preparations are complete, and the blonde man smirks, declaring today is the day he finally gets what he wants.
A formal announcement is made. Lord Elcane is entering. The resentful blonde man, Elcane, demands to know what his father brought.
Lord Elcane holds up a wide-eyed Asil.
Elcane nervously greets the little lizard, while Asil internally objects and Elcane fumes about its presence. Lord Elcane orders a chair brought for Asil to sit beside him.
Promising more treats later, Lord Elcane dotes on Asil, while Elcane plots to get his father drunk.
Elcane flinches, listening from his seat at the table.
Across the long dining table, Elcane reluctantly agrees to his father's orders. With a forced smile, Elcane claims he's always been obedient and can endure for now.
He offers a bottle of wine, asking his father to share a drink with him.
Lord Elcane rejects the wine, telling his son to bring grape juice instead, much to Elcane's confusion. Pointing to Asil, Lord Elcane scolds his son for trying to drink in front of a baby.
Elcane pleads for just one drink, but his father firmly refuses.
Elcane recalls his father's absolute authority, which made Edinburgh the Duke, and resents him for now protecting Asil. He resolves to get rid of his father today and reclaim his place from Edinburgh, feigning remorse for his actions.
With a dark smile, Elcane once again offers a glass of wine.
Seeing his son's seemingly repentant expression, Lord Elcane softens. Lord Elcane agrees to a little wine, and Elcane pours it with a grateful look.
Asil watches the red liquid fill the glass, warning that it smells weird and shouldn't be drunk.
Lord Elcane picks up the wine glass, ignoring the little dragon's warning.
Elcane watches eagerly, silently urging his father to drink.
After taking a sip, the father notes the strange tingling sensation on his tongue.
A wave of dizziness hits him as he wonders what the wine is made of.
Blood spurts from his mouth as a terrified Asil shouts, "Grandpa!"
Lord Elcane collapses, poisoned, as Asil desperately tries to wake him.
A notice from the comic's translation group is displayed.
The poisoned lord lies in bed, sweating in agony as a doctor examines him.
At the bedside, a doctor tells Elcane to prepare himself, and Edinburgh asks what he means.
A shocked Edinburgh stares in disbelief.
The doctor reveals that the Lord ingested a poison called Angel's Tear.
The text explains the poison's name, accompanied by an image of an ornate bottle and angel wings. Elcane furiously denies the situation, shouting that every poison has an antidote. He collapses dramatically onto the bed, crying that he should have been the one to drink it.
He secretly fumes that if the bottle were gone, they'd never identify the poison.
A tearful Asil sits on the Lord's chest, murmuring his name. Elcane kneels beside the bed, putting on a show of grief for Edenbear and the doctor. Elcane desperately asks if there's a way, and Edenbear demands to know what it is.
The doctor turns, his form silhouetted against a bright light.
He explains an ancient legend about priests born on a special day who can revive the dying.
This power, he continues, is said to manifest in someone only once a century.
Elcane despairs that the chances are near zero, but the doctor corrects him.
Edenbear realizes that since the last saintess died a century ago, a new one might exist now.
Elcane listens with a stressed and worried expression. The doctor confirms that there is no other antidote. Edenbear takes charge, commanding his men to find such a priest at any cost. Elcane argues they should find the culprit first, but Edenbear shuts him down. Edenbear firmly states that finding the priest is the absolute priority. Elcane watches from the doorway, vowing that Edenbear's time is running out, as Asil observes him.
Suddenly noticing the little dragon, Elcane recoils in surprise and disgust.
Shoving Asil aside, he storms off, leaving the tiny dragon whimpering on the floor. Asil looks up at the grieving Edenbear, thinking that its husband looks incredibly sad.
Asil recalls its husband's promise to make it the chief of Moonrappa.
It fondly remembers its grandfather, who gave it strawberries despite calling it a bug.
Seeing its husband's sadness, Asil feels a wave of sorrow and empathy.
Realizing this new title is worthless, it resolves to save its grandfather instead.
With newfound determination, Asil prepares to take action. The scene shifts to Asil's room, where it rests in its crib. Spark! A brilliant idea suddenly comes to the drooling dragon. It remembers a story its mother used to read from a book. To save its grandfather, Asil must find the pink-haired apprentice priestess from the tale. The story described a girl the same age as the male lead. Asil prepares for its journey, pocketing supplies through a small portal. It carefully bundles a strawberry and some gold coins into a cloth. With a cheerful farewell, it leaves its sleeping bunny friend behind. The tiny dragon toddles determinedly down a long, ornate hallway. But a problem arises. It has no idea where to find the girl or how to leave.
Tears well up as Asil worries about disappointing its husband if the plan fails.
Lost in thought, Asil is startled by a man calling its name. Recognizing the knight Dylan, Asil decides to act as friendly as possible. Its sudden cheerful demeanor leaves the knight completely bewildered. Asil asks where the priests live, and Dylan explains they stay at the temple. Asil confidently leads the way, knowing this path goes outside the castle. A recruitment notice for a translation team appears on the page. Outside, Dylan confirms their mission to find an apprentice priestess with pink hair. He asks if she's the same age as the Duke, while Asil looks on. Asil generously offers the knight a strawberry, but he politely refuses. Dylan eyes the tiny dragon with suspicion, recalling its past destructive feats and wondering what trouble it's planning now. Though smiling, the knight remains deeply suspicious of Asil's motives. Asil decides to keep its plan a secret, unsure if the storybook heroine can truly help. Dylan quickly plucks the strawberry from Asil's mouth, telling it to keep quiet. Startled, Asil wonders why he took its precious strawberry. The knight gravely warns Asil that its plan is unlikely to succeed. Inside the carriage, Dylan asks Asil to explain its intentions. Their journey takes them to a large, impressive building. The temple.
Thwack! Inside, a hand slams a stack of documents onto a desk.
A gray-haired priest fumes over the temple's lack of income.
He complains that noble families usually bribe them to take care of their children.
But he's stuck with orphans from the slums who bring in no money.
He laments that their only recent income was a small sum to take in a girl. An aide knocks on the door to announce a visitor for the priest. Annoyed, the priest assumes someone has caused more trouble for him. He recognizes the pink-haired girl, Selena, as the rude child from before. The priest scoffs, wondering who could possibly want to see her. His aide explains that the visitors are from the prestigious House Moonlefay.
The priest instantly changes his tune, scolding his aide for not mentioning it sooner.
With a greedy smile, he realizes this is a lucrative opportunity.
The priest warmly greets Dylan, asking how he came to know their Selena. Dylan explains that the Duke was quite impressed with her on his last visit.
He elaborates that the Duke admired how kindly she played with PPP.
The priest agrees that Selena is a sweet girl, but claims she has already been promised to someone else.
P, unfazed by the conversation, a seal happily munches on a strawberry. Dylan realizes the child they're discussing must be Selena. With a greedy smile, the priest wonders what to do since two parties want the same child. He sanctimoniously claims the temple always puts the children's happiness first. The priest asks Dylan if he knows where happiness comes from. He declares that happiness comes from money, which buys pretty clothes, delicious food, and jewelry. An image displays a delicious-looking steak dinner and dessert. Disgusted, Dylan thinks they're selling children like merchandise. A stressed Dylan wonders if he has any emergency funds, while the priest gleefully anticipates a payday.
Ahem. The priest dismisses a small pouch of coins, stating it's not enough for a child's happiness.
Dylan offers to bring more later, but the priest refuses, saying happiness can't be bought on credit. Suddenly, a seal presents a large gold coin, shocking Dylan, who thinks it's just a toy.
Pia, a seal stands proudly on the table.
Oh, a close-up shows the shiny, cute coin.
Impressed, the priest asks if Pippi Pippi is giving the clever toy to him, and a seal agrees. The priest greedily gathers the sparkling gold coins.
With a wide smile, the priest orders Selena to be brought in, as Dylan wonders if the man's eyesight is bad.
A seal seeks approval, and Dylan concedes that its plan worked, despite his lingering trauma with reptiles.
Bang! A door bursts open as someone shouts for their captors to let them go.
The new arrival is described as having flowing pink hair
and shining golden eyes.
The pink-haired girl, Selena, is dragged in, looking furious.
Her lips are pressed into a thin, angry line. She screams at them to die, calling them filthy perverts. The scene shifts to the building's exterior. A flashback reveals Selena was once an ordinary office worker in South Korea. On her way home from work while reading a novel, she was hit by a truck. A flash of light depicts the moment of impact. Cursing the reincarnation truck, she awoke to find she'd possessed the heroine of the novel. Selena looks annoyed as she processes her new reality. She recalls the character's tragic backstory of being sold to a perverted noble. A scene from the novel shows the heroine being comforted by a blonde man. Back in the present, the priest introduces her, but she thinks this encounter wasn't supposed to happen yet. Staring intently, she wonders if there's another possessor in this world. A seal peeks out, thinking that Dylan doesn't seem like a pervert. The tiny dragon watches with wide, innocent eyes. They depart in a carriage through an autumnal landscape. Selena recognizes a seal as the baby dragon from the original story. A seal looks on with a blank expression. Sitting opposite him in the carriage, Selena questions why he is here. She recalls that in the story, a seal should have already been imprisoned for breathing fire and injuring the male lead. Realizing the plot has changed, she concludes that a seal must be a possessor, regressor, or reincarnator. She resolves to protect the original plot at all costs. The new reality of the situation causes her to collapse in despair.
Chirp. Selena stares at the chewing dragon, trying to ask who it is. Azil announces it is the boss of Monlef, stunning Selena, who thinks it's a power play. She nervously asks why he's taking her away, telling herself to remain calm.
She recalls Asil is a ferocious dragon who has burned knights and realizes she has to make a choice. She considers whether she will have to fight him for the role of heroine. Asil calmly offers to hand over her husband, recalling something its mother told it.
Selena looks on, completely bewildered by the offer.
Selena recalls the original story's plot. She was meant to care for the male lead, then run away.
The story would then have the obsessed male lead chase after her.
Back in the carriage, Selena raises her hand with a weary expression.
Pi? Azil looks on with confusion as the narration states the whole world will revolve around Selena.
Selena's face sets with grim determination.
P. Asil climbs onto the bed, quietly announcing to its grandpa that it's here.
In the grand bedroom, Edinburgh asks Selena if she is an apprentice priest.
Edinburgh looks on with a nervous expression. The doctor explains that anyone with divine power would be a mid-rank priest, while someone born on the god's day would be hailed as a saint.
Selena boldly claims she has the power and orders everyone outside, promising to detoxify the man and leave.
The doctor and Edinburgh are left speechless by her declaration.
Whew. Selena steels herself, thinking she cannot afford to make a mistake now. She resolves to unleash her hidden power, confident that she can succeed as a brilliant golden energy begins to swirl around her. The doctor cries out in disbelief that she possesses divine power, pleading for her to save the man.
As Edinburgh watches intently, Asil marvels at the glittering light, while Selena struggles, realizing the poison is stronger than she anticipated and that her power isn't fully purified. Against a vision of a dark, sparkling sphere, she laments that her current power isn't enough.
Straining, Selena realizes the poison is too vicious to cleanse in a single day.
She decides she must escape before the day grows darker.
Pia! Asil cries desperately at its grandfather's side while Edinburgh looks on.
Opening his eyes, the poisoned man, Elcane, wonders aloud if he is dead.
Surrounded by the concerned group, Elcane asks again if he has died.
The doctor smiles, happily explaining that Asil brought a priest who is born on the holy day of the gods.
Elcane remarks that he never imagined owing his life to a lizard as the doctor expresses his relief.
Elcane gently pats Asil's head in a moment of affection. Wiping away a tear, a relieved Edinburgh asks for forgiveness.
Lying in bed, Elcane speaks with Selena.
Selena appears flustered, averting her gaze.
The group continues their discussion in the large, ornate bedroom.
The doctor informs a shocked Edinburgh that Lord Elcane still has poison left in his body.
Selena looks distraught, wondering why this is happening again.
She fears that if she becomes a saintess like in the novel, she'll marry the male lead, but Asil might ultimately kill her.
Realizing the danger, she resolves to avoid becoming a saintess at all costs.
Selena requests that no one reveal that she possesses divine power. She continues speaking as Asil looks up at her from the floor.
She explains that she never wants to return to the temple where she was mocked for being an orphan.
The doctor expresses concern, while Edinburgh wonders why she specifically wants to become Azil's maid.
Selena declares her wish to serve Asil as repayment for seeing her worth and coming to get her. She formally asks Asil for its acceptance, leaving the tiny dragon speechless.
The scene shifts to a quiet view of a grand window at night.
Edinburgh thanks the doctor and Selena for their hard work, but the doctor dismisses it as necessary.
The doctor wishes them both a good night's rest. Selena nods in acknowledgement.
Asil recalls its mother's warning to be wary of human heroines, confused why Selena wants to be its maid.
The tiny dragon watches as the doctor leads Selena out of the room.
Edinburgh tells a seal it can refuse her request, as there are other ways to reward her.
But husband, a seal interrupts, asking if he found the person who hurt its grandpa.
Edinburgh admits he hasn't found the culprit yet and feels pathetic, which shocks a seal.
A seal recalls hearing from the knights that the suspect had disappeared.
The tiny dragon hugs its husband's leg, thinking that he is doing well despite the setback.
Edinburgh looks down at a seal with a grim and serious expression.
Asil explains its husband is struggling, and when the boy asks how it knows, it proudly boasts that Asil knows everything.
The tiny dragon looks on with wide, surprised eyes.
The blonde boy realizes Dylan must have been talking too much and decides to warn him. Startled by something unseen, the boy exclaims in surprise.
He turns away, concluding that the man he's thinking of must be tired.
He reflects on his gratitude, wishing he could properly thank a seal for saving his grandfather.
A seal stands with a look of firm resolve.
It scurries through the hall, recalling that the suspect vanished near a shed outside the castle.
Looking out at the snowy town, a seal worries, as it does not like the cold.
It opens a swirling purple portal with a determined look. Now dressed for the cold, a seal wears an adorable blue cape and a fluffy white hood.
A seal spots a small white rabbit-like creature sleeping peacefully on the sofa.
It tugs a blanket off the creature, which opens its eyes with a sleepy, questioning look.
Asil and the rabbit, now wearing a scarf, hurry off, determined to make it back in time. The scene shifts to a quiet, snowy landscape with two small cabins.
A hand carefully brushes snow from a bundled object.
The blonde man, Eckert, urges an unseen person to come inside, warning that others will arrive soon.
Asil and the rabbit arrive in the snow, waving a small goodbye.
The little rabbit bravely pushes a shivering Asil forward through the heavy snow.
It spots a barn and recalls hearing about a creepy abandoned tower nearby, hoping there are no ghosts.
Asil jumps in surprise, startling the little rabbit who yelps.
It tries to reassure the timid rabbit that it won't be scary as they peek into the barn.
A sudden bang from inside makes Asil leap back in fright.
أصيل ينظر بقلق إلى الأرنب الصغير الذي أصبح الآن هائجا تماما وعيناه تدوران.
Determined, Asil charges into the barn, carrying its dazed companion.
Wah! Asil and the rabbit scream in terror as tiny ghosts appear, while a fox watches them from a hay bale.
The fox on the hay bale looks down at them, annoyed by all the noise.
Asil cheerfully greets the fox, while the rabbit timidly apologizes for being loud.
The fox huffs and leaps down, and Asil approaches to ask it something.
Sniffing the air, Asil notes that the scent doesn't belong to its grandfather or Beante.
It follows the fox, calling out to get its attention.
Asil asks the fox if it saw a human girl, and the fox turns in response.
Using a portrait from Dylan as a reference, Asil tries to describe the girl's face with its paws.
The fox bluntly calls the description ugly, shocking the little dragon.
Asil explains the girl hurt its grandfather, and it intends to scold her.
Recognizing Asil, the fox calls it an ugly lizard, prompting a furious denial from the dragon.
Asil invites the fox to join them as they head out of the barn.
The two companions travel together through the snowy woods.
Asil picks up its husband's scent, wondering if he was there recently.
The fox rustles through a pile of hay, revealing a person hiding inside. Beside the unconscious woman, the fox tells Asil to take her.
The fox unceremoniously dumps the bundled woman into the snow.
Asil strains to drag the heavy bundle with a rope as the little rabbit rides on top.
It daydreams about receiving praise from its husband and grandfather for being a brave dragon.
Humming a happy tune, Asil proudly drags its prize through the snow.
Elsewhere in the forest, two figures in white cloaks
run through the snow. The two cloaked figures argue, one blaming the other's stomachache for their failure.
They spot a seal, recognizing the captured girl and questioning the tiny lizard dragging her. Exhausted and hungry, Asil struggles to continue as one of the figures snaps a twig, refusing to let it escape.
The figure calls out to the little lizard, and a sweating Asil looks up nervously.
Asil is captured by two hooded figures who call him a thief.
Frightened, Asil thinks he smells someone named Beyonce.
One of the captors cuts the ropes, offering to let him go unharmed.
Asil defiantly declares he will fight them, but the men mock his bravery.
Believing he is brave, Asil summons a strange heart-shaped power.
The tiny dragon stands ready for a fight.
Oh no, Asil suddenly realizes he's too hungry to breathe fire. One captor draws his sword as Asil cries out for someone to save him. Thud. Someone lands forcefully on the attacker. A relieved Asil looks up as a mysterious voice chirps from a snowy branch.
A blond man with a sword appears, wondering who saved Asil, while Asil thinks he looks and smells like his husband.
The handsome stranger looks over his shoulder in the snowy landscape. Asil stands over the unconscious captor in the snow.
Staring at the man, Asil notes his resemblance to his husband.
He realizes the man is younger than his grandfather and feels certain of his identity.
Asil has a sudden shocked realization. Asil wonders if it was his father, who mysteriously vanished after being trapped in a distant tower.
The scene shifts to a caged carriage being escorted through an autumn forest.
A man congratulates Lord Beyonce, now the Duke, on a successful hunt. An aide remarks that the family's discipline is finally being restored. The aide expresses relief from serving the young Duke as Beyonce smirks, thinking he should have dealt with his father sooner. Feigning regret, Beyonce blames his soft heart and suggests a celebratory drink. His followers enthusiastically agree, calling it an honor. Riding toward his estate, Beyonce notices a welcoming party and thinks his men are flatterers.
He greets the young blonde boy, Edinburgh, as his dear nephew.
Edinburgh stares back with a cold, serious expression.
In a flashback, Edinburgh sentences Beyonce Munlef to punishment for poisoning Lord Elcane. A stunned Beyonce denies poisoning his own father. Edinburgh's voice declares that no one who commits patricide can bear the Munlef name. Beyonce forces a calm, dismissive smile. The memory continues with Edinburgh stating that his patience has limits.
Back in the present, Edinburgh announces that Lord Elcane is still alive.
Beyonce is completely shocked by the news.
An aide whispers that Elcane's poison was purged and the culprit caught.
Edinburgh thinks to himself that he will ensure the woman is captured.
Beyonce breaks into a nervous sweat.
As his men call out to him, Beyonce realizes he can't retreat now that he's been exposed. Panicked, Beyonce accuses Edinburgh of using their father's illness as an excuse to kill him. One of Beyonce's own men speaks up, saying some lines should never be crossed.
He condemns Beyonce for threatening his uncle just to secure power.
Raising his sword, Beyonce calls for his men to join him as the new duke.
Edinburgh coldly looks on, declaring them all traitors.
He gives a single chilling order: cut them down. The battle begins as one of Beyonce's men is struck down. The young Edinburgh leaps into the fight himself.
As Edinburgh battles, someone curses in frustration.
One of the traitors realizes they are being overrun and will be slaughtered.
In desperation, he orders the sacred beasts to be released. A massive eagle is unleashed and swoops toward Edinburgh's forces.
A cheetah joins the fray, lunging into the battle.
Edinburgh runs in alarm, shocked that the enemy has unleashed sacred beasts. A powerful clawed paw grips a sword, stopping it cold. A man struggles against a massive lion, knowing victory will be costly. He strains, thinking a powerful girl could defeat the lion with one punch.
As a lion roars, the man cries out in desperation for a seal. To the man's surprise, the tiny dragon Asil appears floating in the sky.
Pow! The lion is struck hard across its face.
Asil zips through the air, delivering a barrage of powerful attacks.
Surrounded by its foes, Asil glows with confident energy.
The tiny dragon strikes a heroic pose, ready for more.
Asil smirks, wondering who to crush next.
Flinch. A man stares in terror, calling Asil a monster. Biante's men flee in a panic, screaming for someone to save them.
Biante desperately orders his cowardly men to turn back and fight.
He's startled as Asil lands directly on his horse's head. Edinburgh raises his sword, ordering his forces to capture every last traitor. From the grand castle, his soldiers roar their ascent. In an instant, the battle reverses as Biante is violently disarmed.
Defeated, Biante kneels before Edinburgh's forces as victory is declared.
Biante's disheartened vassals are captured and bound one by one.
With Biante finally captured, Edinburgh looks on as Asil perches atop his head.
A sword gleams brightly against the sky, symbolizing the end of the conflict.
One of Edinburgh's commanders grimly tells his men to rejoice.
With Asil on his head, Edinburgh declares their victory.
Hearing the declaration, two of his loyal men smile in relief. Wah! The sudden cheers startle Asil, who cries out in fright.
Hic! The tiny dragon hiccups with fright on Edinburgh's head as he looks on.
Edinburgh gently lifts the startled dragon from his hair.
He smiles warmly, thanking Asil for its help.
Asil looks up at Edinburgh, its fear replaced by happiness.
Edinburgh holds the tiny dragon close, a look of affection in his eyes.
In a field of golden flowers, Edinburgh and Asil share a tender hug.
The scene shifts to a dark, torch-lit dungeon corridor. Chained in a cell, Biante seethes, blaming the damned lizard for his complete downfall. He realizes he should have been wary of Asil, not his father, and vows revenge as footsteps approach.
Seeing his visitor, Biante wonders aloud if he was expecting too much.
He lunges at the bars, blaming his visiting father for everything.
Biante furiously accuses his father of exclusively favoring Edinburgh, a claim his father questions.
He argues that as the next in line, he deserved to be the family head, not some young brat, and demands to know if he's wrong. His father calmly asks if he recalls the trial on the snowy plains. Biante remembers the test to become the next duke and how weakened Edinburgh had to be carried back. His father asks if Biante knows why Edinburgh was carried, but Biante dismisses it as a lack of stamina.
The father reveals he sent a disguised knight to test them both, shocking Biondetta.
He recounts how Biante not only cast the knight out, but buried him in the snow to hide his cruelty.
In contrast, Edinburgh gave away his own supplies, proving his character. The father asks how a selfish man like Biante could ever lead.
Biondetto makes a pathetic excuse, but his father slams a staff against the bars, shouting, "Enough!"
He calmly declares that the discussion is over.
He passes a dagger through the bars to his son. Citing their past bond, the father orders Biante to take his own life.
Biante stares back, his face a mask of pure horror and despair.
"Wait!" Biante screams, asking how his father can do this to his own child as he walks away.
His father stops before a portrait of a fox, thinking that there were still some left.
Whew! With his father gone, the dungeon falls silent.
Ha! Biante grips the dagger his father left him.
He begins to laugh hysterically from within his cell. With tears in his eyes, he laments losing his position for such a trivial reason. A hand falls limp as he realizes he should have gotten rid of his father sooner. His expression hardens as he hears footsteps, planning to kill the approaching guard and steal the key. A hooded figure appears as Biante hides the dagger behind his back.
Beante looks at the visitor through the bars and tells them to come here. He menacingly lures the hooded figure closer, hiding his weapon with a smirk.
Hick. As the figure speaks, Beante freezes, recognizing the voice.
The visitor removes his hood, revealing himself to be Beante's brother, who greets him after a long while. Huh? Beante stares in utter confusion. Hiding the dagger, Beante asks, "Brother?" as the visitor calmly greets his little brother.
Enraged, Beante asks why his powerless, tower-imprisoned brother is here, but his brother draws a blade, stating Beante is a threat.
Wait, Beante pleads, his confidence shattered as he calls out to his brother. He desperately begs his brother to listen for a moment as the blade is raised. His brother's glowing purple eyes narrow with deadly intent. In a flash, his brother lunges forward, stabbing him through the bars of the cell.
Irk. Beante chokes on his own blood as the blade pierces his chest.
Thud. His body slumps to the dungeon floor. The brother holds his dying sibling for a moment before letting him fall. With a final, cold farewell, he watches his worthless brother die. He regrets handing the woman to Edinburgh, thinking he should have dealt with things himself, as a small fox rubs against his leg. He glances down and gently pets the happy fox. He announces they're heading to the capital, thinking of his son.
He strides down the corridor with a new purpose, to help him.
The scene shifts to a bright and luxurious parlor. Over an elegant tea service, an unseen person asks if the others have heard the news. A group of noble women gossip about House Munlef, surprised it hasn't fallen yet. They mock the monster the family summoned, wondering if it can even speak. Another woman interjects, correcting their outdated news by announcing there was a civil war. She reveals that Duke Munlef's summoned monster single-handedly fought hundreds of knights to quell the rebellion. Her friends are left speechless, unable to believe what they're hearing. The stories continue, describing a creature that breathes fire and smashes gates with its bare hands. They whisper a rumor that it keeps a rabbit as a snack, questioning how it could be a divine beast. Outraged, they declare it a lowly monster and resolve to petition the imperial family. Their demand is clear. It must not be recognized as a divine beast. The scene pans over a magnificent imperial palace. A maid reports that this is what the nobles are saying. In a grand hall, two maids report to a blue-haired woman on a throne who is petting a seal. A mysterious blue-haired woman smiles, intrigued by the power of Duke Munlef's monster. Third Princess Iokaste Lyn Alliope wonders if the creature is strong enough to reject her proposal. A terrified maid approaches with tea, suddenly feeling something strange on her body. The teacup trembles and spills as the princess watches with a chillingly calm expression. Ah! The princess deliberately trips the maid, sending her crashing to the floor. Standing over the fallen servant, she scolds her for failing to protect a royal's cup. The princess points down at the maid, declaring she must pay for her crime. As the maid begs for her life, the princess calmly sentences her to death. The terrified maid is dragged away by two guards as someone cries out, "Princess!"
Her maid trembling in fear, the blue-haired princess decides she'd like to see just how strong this monster is.
The remaining maids exchange looks of silent, shared terror. One maid warns another that ignoring the princess is a death sentence. Oh, the princess has an idea, suggesting they send House Munlef an invitation to her birthday banquet. A maid questions if the princess expects her to grovel just to summon Munlef's monster. With a cold glare, the princess sentences that maid to death as well for her insolence. Left alone, the final maid stands trembling, begging for her life after committing a grave crime. The princess laughs mockingly, asking why she's so frightened, as the maid stammers an excuse. She gives a new order,
Send a letter to Duke Munlef, inviting both him and his divine beast.
With a sinister smile, she adds that the Duke can decline, but the divine beast must attend. The scene shifts to the Munlef estate, where two maids are shocked by the princess's demand.
An aide reports the news, confirming the third princess sent a letter as Edinburgh holds the invitation.
A teacup is set down gently on its saucer.
The blonde-haired man explains to Edinburgh that a letter sent under the princess's real name holds special weight.
He then teases Edinburgh, asking if he's exchanging love letters with the princess, much to Asil's surprise.
Asil wonders if its husband, Edinburgh, was involved with the human princess, imagining them running happily together.
Remembering its mother surrounded by handsome beastmen, Asil thinks aloud, I see.
It declares that its goal is to marry many beastmen just like its mom, so its husband can too.
The blonde man asks why the princess would send an invitation, and Edinburgh reveals it's likely because he refused an arranged marriage.
What? The man is stunned to learn of an arranged marriage between the third princess and Edinburgh, who confirms it's true.
The blonde man stares at the letter on the table, deep in thought.
He explains that the third princess, Iokaste, is known for her vicious personality, despite her beauty.
Annoyed that she set her sights on Edinburgh, he listens as his duke tells him not to worry. Edinburgh reveals he's already promised to marry someone, causing the man to spit his tea everywhere in shock. Edinburgh remains perfectly calm amidst the man's surprise.
The blonde man fumes, declaring a marriage contract outrageous and vowing to meet her himself. Petting a worried Asil, Edinburgh agrees that her demand is indeed outrageous. A faint, knowing smile plays on Edinburgh's lips. He clarifies that while he's not marrying her, he does intend to go to the capital. He must report on the civil war and announce the new divine beast, making the princess's banquet a perfect opportunity.
PP! Asil wakes up, excitedly chirping that it wants to meet the princess. A maid worries that if Asil, who is now so respected, imitates the vicious princess, it will become a truly vicious dragon, breathing fire and terrifying everyone, including a tearful Edinburgh.
Asil eagerly urges them to go, as the men wonder why the tiny dragon is so excited. P. The scene shifts to a bustling town market on a bright day.
Eee! Asil squeals with delight as they walk through the vibrant town square.
The tiny dragon points, exclaiming how pretty the jewels are, but Edinburgh asks what it means. Edinburgh realizes Asil is looking at the sparkling jewelry worn by a passing noblewoman.
Asil looks up with glittering eyes, filled with desire for the shiny gems.
Overwhelmed with gratitude, Edinburgh clenches his fist, declaring he wants to do everything for Asil, even if it means buying a shop. Asil spots a woman's dress, recognizing the style as the same one its husband gave it.
A gift? The blonde man asks, to which Asil happily replies, yeah.
Asil proudly holds up a small white cloth.
The blonde man wonders where the little one got it, while Edinburgh looks on fondly.
The man smiles, deciding that since they're out, he'll buy Asil something special.
He leads them into a jewelry shop with a sparkling display window.
Inside, brilliant necklaces and butterfly pins glitter in a display case. A close-up reveals an exquisite diamond and pearl necklace.
Oh my! Asil flits about excitedly as the shopkeeper praises the divine beast's excellent eye for jewels.
Adorned in new jewelry, Asil poses happily.
Asil proudly shows off its new look, asking if it's pretty.
In a different scene, a woman tells a pink-haired girl they can make a smaller item for her, as she was there to treat Elcane's poison.
Asil curls up with a chosen necklace, declaring that it likes this one.
The blonde man with the mustache agrees, saying they'll just buy another if Asil loses it.
The blonde boy thinks about their wealth as the pink-haired girl offers to pay for it herself.
A shopkeeper's bell chimes as a man's voice insists on paying, offering to buy the whole store as thanks for saving his life,
much to the girl's surprise. A gray-haired priest laughs, asking a woman in a hat to convey his loyalty to Duke Starapit.
The priest explains he saw Duke Munlef's knight outside and recognized him.
His eyes narrow as he remarks that it's been a while. He addresses the pink-haired girl as Selena, who looks up in alarm. The priest taunts the blonde man, suggesting he may not have the money to make Selena happy, as the boy and man look on seriously. He continues his jab, noting they seem to have money for divine beasts, as a seal peers out of a display case. The blonde boy judges the man to be a low-ranking priest, while the priest wonders where the duke gets his nerve. The priest smiles at the woman in the hat, who looks thoroughly unimpressed. Selena and the blonde boy share a tense, concerned glance. The woman in the hat asks in shock if they are the Munlef ducal family. The blonde man places a hand on the boy's shoulder, asking Duchess Starapit to explain what happened. The Duchess invites Priest Theodore to speak, who promises a dumbfounding story. He recounts how the Duke's knight requested the apprentice priestess Selena. He explains the temple's procedure of vetting a client's wealth, though Selena silently scoffs at the claim. The priest continues, explaining that when they ask the knight for proof of his wealth, he grows angry, declaring that the knight mocked him with junk. He holds up a coin, complaining he was given fake gold as a seal looks on, shocked. Both the priest and the Duchess look around in confusion. PP! Asil stomps its foot angrily, declaring the coins are not junk.
The Duchess explains that she used to get those coins for being a good student in kindergarten, realizing Asil is using translation magic. Recognized as a divine beast, Azil puffs its chest out, fuming with indignation.
Fang! The tip of a sword scabbard strikes the floor decisively. The blonde boy glares, remarking, "So it seems." He points an accusing finger, condemning the priest for calling treasures from a divine beast junk, leaving the priest terrified. The priest and the Duchess exchange nervous glances. The priest begins to sweat, his expression one of pure panic. The blonde man coolly asks if the priest thought his pet's gift was junk. The priest frantically denies it, stammering as Asil looks on. He shamefully admits he threw the coins away, and Asil's face falls. Asil wilts sadly as Selena leans over to the boy and suggests they send the priest to his maker. The priest drops to his knees, begging for forgiveness and promising to remake the pouch and its contents. The blonde boy sternly asks what was inside the pouch. Asil, looking down at the groveling priest, sadly tells them to just forget it. The blonde man glares down at the terrified priest, a vein throbbing on his temple. In desperation, the priest grabs onto the Duchess's skirt. He begs the Duchess to help him. He pleads for her assistance just this once as she sighs and looks away. The Duchess states he seems regretful enough and suggests they let the matter go. The boy challenges the Duchess, asking if she'd feel the same if her own divine beast were insulted, causing her to ask if he's still holding a grudge. She dismisses the past event, claiming she was merely curious. The blonde man asks the boy what she's talking about. The Duchess changes the subject back to shopping as a weary Asil perks up, its eyes catching a sparkle. The scene shifts to a sweeping view of a magnificent estate at sunset. Flinging the doors open, Duchess Starapit storms in, shouting. She confronts her husband, demanding he deal with Priest Theodore. Frustrated, she complains that she was threatened because of him. The Duke scoffs at the Munlef family's threat as she explains they brought up a past incident. The incident in question occurred when the young Duke Edinburgh inherited his title. In a flashback, the Duke recalls using their Firebird Divine Beast to fight desert monsters, which resulted in the fiery deaths of half the Munlef Knight Order. The Duke smirks, remembering how he dismissed a young, angry Edinburgh's complaints about the incident. The Duchess regrets not crushing them back then, and her husband agrees. Elsewhere, Asil sleeps peacefully, twitching in its dreams.
With a sinister smile, the Duchess suggests they use their divine beast to put that lizard in its place.
She vows that once again they will burn everything down.
The scene shifts to the grand Munlif ducal estate. A group of knights looks exhausted, and their leader, Elcane, declares this is a big problem.
Asil sits nearby, curiously holding a small flower ring. "Knight human, what's wrong?" Asil asks, but the troubled Elcane trails off.
Edinburgh reads a letter from the Starapit dukedom requesting a sparring match between their knight orders, shocking Asil. Asil wonders why they can't just fight, and Elcane lets out a weary sigh.
Standing over his kneeling comrade, Elcane admits they are outmatched and will be defeated, bringing shame to the dukedom and Lady Asil.
Asil puffs out its chest with a look of smug determination.
Asil fights super well,
it declares for a skeptical Elcane who appreciates the thought.
He gently explains that a divine beast cannot participate, causing Asil's ears to droop.
Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes the little dragon.
With newfound purpose, Asil toddles off towards another building. The blonde aide is startled by Asil's sudden appearance in the doorway. He playfully scolds the rascal, asking where it pawned its duke, leaving Asil confused. Picking up a small object from a box, he wonders aloud if it's a toy.
He then picks up Asil itself, holding the tiny dragon like a doll, and looking puzzled.
The knights stand at attention as someone calls for Lord Elcane. The blonde aide arrives holding Asil, announcing he heard all about their problem from the little beast.
He declares that life or death battles are the fastest way to improve, revealing his plan.
The nervous knights listen intently to his proposal.
The aide presents Asil, ordering the knights to fight the divine beast with all their might. With determined looks, they accept the challenge from Lady Asil. Elsewhere, the blue-haired princess laughs, mocking the idea of a lizard training knights.
A maid quietly reports that she is seeing everything for herself.
The princess asks about the beast's personality. The maid confirms it is mercilessly targeting weaknesses, making the princess lament that she cannot witness the spectacle herself.
A chibi diagram places Asil and Edinburgh at the top of a power pyramid, above a flustered Duke Starapet and his phoenix.
A hand gracefully opens an ornate blue and black fan.
Hiding her smile behind the fan, the princess orders both dukes to bring their divine beasts to the match. The training complete, the knights thank Lady Asil for her guidance.
Bruised but grateful, the knights thank Asil for the merciless beatings and present a box of toys, delighting the divine beast.
Peek. Asil happily breaks a new toy as the knights smile, glad their efforts were acknowledged.
The scene transitions through a quiet, wooded landscape.
The view settles on a lavishly decorated pink drawing room. Asil relaxes contentedly in a small, ornate water basin.
It gazes out the window, noting the full moon is already out.
A thought bubble reveals that Asil's birthday recently passed unnoticed.
Startled, Asil sits bolt upright in its bath.
A voice exclaims in sudden realization, "Ah, Asil, I forgot it was your birthday."
Playing the guest of honor, Asil wears a makeshift party hat before a slice of cheesecake.
Asil sings happily as a small white rabbit claps along to the tune. Asil flops over, declaring it's done, as the white rabbit looks on in shock.
A happy, crayon-like memory shows Asil's birthday party with animal friends. The memory fades as Asil begins to cry, saddened by the forgotten celebration.
The blonde boy hesitates outside a large, ornate door.
Looking anxious, he nervously clutches a decorative blue box.
The box is revealed to be a beautiful blue and gold velvet case. The boy presents the gift, and Asil asks if its birthday already passed. Delighted, Asil hugs the box and gives its thanks. Click! Asil opens the gift, its eyes widening in amazement. The boy explains the jeweled pink bow is a neck ornament for its scarf. Asil proudly shows off the new bow attached to its back. Asil flutters happily as the boy asks if it likes the gift. Relieved, the boy thanks a small, stressed panda for handling his job. He then presents the document, explaining he finished the marriage contract despite being busy. Asil spreads the contract out, looking it over while wearing its new bow. The boy explains he included obvious clauses in the contract to ensure Asil's security. He looks slightly apprehensive as he prepares to mention the third clause. He states they will need an adopted heir since he can't have children, prompting a confused Asil to ask why not. Asil imagines a stork delivering a baby bunny to the young boy. The little dragon stares with wide, innocent eyes at the flustered boy.
Asil's expression is one of pure, innocent confusion.
The boy kneels, thoughtfully considering how to respond to Asil's question. He continues to look down at Asil, deep in thought. Asil looks up from the contract with sudden realization. Asil announces it's going home, and the boy smiles kindly. Deciding it can be said later, Asil places a ring on the signature line. The boy smiles, declaring their contract is now official as Asil holds it up. He promises to propose properly as soon as Asil is an adult. Overwhelmed by the day's events, Asil lets out a massive yawn. The boy gently tucks Asil in, telling it to sleep, and Asil agrees. A thought bubble reveals the boy's tender feelings. My partner. He watches fondly as Asil and the white rabbit sleep soundly beside him.
A view of the sky signals the passage of time.
Finally, the day of the much-anticipated friendly match arrives. The scene shifts to a grand white building where the duel will take place. Inside, onlookers murmur about the massive crowd, blaming Duke Starapit. Another spectator agrees, suspecting the Duke wants to publicly humiliate Munlef. Selena overhears someone noting the high odds on a Munlef victory. With a confident smirk, she decides she will be that winning bet. Elsewhere, the blonde man with the mustache observes Elcane, thinking he seems suspicious lately. Selena denies preparing anything special, insisting she is just receiving treatment from him. She cringes as the man makes dolls of her and the blonde boy kiss, realizing he's matchmaking. She rejects the idea, claiming she'd rather die than marry, and that she's fated to eat her husband.
The man sighs that it's a shame, as Selena confirms her suspicions about his intentions.
Frustrated, she decides she may need to go abroad to escape his meddling. Her escape plan hits a snag as she wonders how to fund it. At the venue, Selena takes matters into her own hands, happily calling for bets on the match.
A man questions the huge difference in odds between the two ducal houses.
He scoffs, refusing to waste his money on what he perceives as a losing bet. As Selena hopes for more bets on Starapit, a hooded woman shocks her by betting 3 million gold on Munlef. The pink-haired woman recognizes the hooded figure, realizing a princess placed the massive bet. The hooded figure is revealed to be the smug-looking Princess Iokaste. Princess Iokaste stands confidently in her blue cloak. The pink-haired woman confronts her, questioning why a princess is taking bets. She deduces the princess must have spies in the Munlef house to be so confident. She recalls the princess was an obstacle in the original story and braces herself for trouble. A nearby man scoffs at the princess, calling her bet on the losing side a waste of money. The princess retorts sharply, asking if he's calling himself a beggar and raging him. A betting war erupts between them, and the pink-haired woman watches in shock as the stakes skyrocket. Wah! She rejoices in a mountain of cash, declaring Princess Iokaste is the best. An announcer gestures to the crowd before a grand building. From the stands, he declares the match will begin now. The scene shifts to a wide shot of the dueling arena. A knight in a white uniform walks into the arena,
anticipating a long fight.
Munlef's first challenger, Knight Dylan, enters, vowing to fight for Lady Asil's honor.
An opposing knight taunts Dylan for joining the Losers Club, causing him to glare. Dylan unsheaths his sword, ready to prove him wrong.
In a shocking turn of events, the scoreboard reveals Munlef's decisive 3-0 victory.
Asil munches on popcorn, smugly declaring its honor is intact.
Bang! An enraged Duke Starapit slams his fist, accusing Munlef of rigging the match. He fumes that there's no way they could lose, especially with a magic swordsman on their side.
The young blonde duke watches the outburst with a calm, knowing smile.
Asil looks up from its popcorn with wide, curious eyes.
It happily notes that its husband seems pleased with the outcome.
Duke Starapit seethes with anger, his knuckles white around his wineglass.
Though the matches are over, the crowd roars for more, demanding another fight.
The flustered announcer thanks them for their support but seems overwhelmed. Princess Iokaste suddenly calls out, telling him to wait.
She walks forward purposefully, flanked by her 2 attendants.
2 onlookers stare in shock at her unexpected appearance.
The announcer formally introduces Her Highness, Princess Iokaste, the 3rd princess. She removes her hood, asking who they are to end the event when the audience wants more.
The crowd enthusiastically agrees, shouting their support for the princess.
Pyong, Asil is shocked to see that everyone is kneeling.
It notices that even its husband and the loud old man are kneeling before the princess.
A dawning realization strikes the little dragon. Asil's eyes sparkle with utter admiration for the powerful princess. The princess points out the problem, the vast difference in power between the knight orders. As she wonders what to do, Asil daydreams about snacks.
Aha! An idea suddenly strikes the princess.
She proposes a friendly divine beast battle to foster harmony between the houses.
Duke Starapid explodes with rage, while the blonde boy looks on intently.
The blonde boy calmly objects, warning that a fight without safety measures would be a disaster. The princess counters, revealing she brought court mages to erect a barrier. Duke Starapit is stunned by her foresight.
A confident red-haired man steps forward, saying all they need to do is win.
He smirks, clearly eager for a fight. His confident smile doesn't waver. Duke Starapit furiously orders the man, Fia, to sit down. The man ignores him, introducing himself as Fia, the divine beast of Starapit. Startled, Asil looks back as the red-haired man, Fia, points at it. It stands resolute, believing its honor will fall if it doesn't fight. Puffing out its chest, Asil proudly declares it is the chief of Munlef. Fia taunts the unseen divine beast, calling it too small and too scared to show itself.
He scoffs, assuming Munlef's divine beast has run away.
Hands gently lift a surprised-looking Asil. The crowd erupts in disbelief, mocking the tiny creature they heard was a monster. Scratching his head, Fia wonders if Duke Munlef has gone insane. He sneers, asking if the shiny, bald lizard is really their divine beast.
Shh! Shaking with rage at the insult, Asil breathes a tiny puff of flame.
Its furious cry to "Come at me" echoes across the grand arena. Facing each other in the arena, Fia asks Asil a question, and Asil responds. Fia mockingly asks if Asil is a baldy, but Asil furiously denies it, pointing to its eggshell.
Asil sweats, realizing it can't argue with that logic.
It reluctantly accepts its baldness, but forbids anyone from saying it, prompting a smirk from Fia. Fia leans in, teasingly noting that a divine beast's power is shown when its eye and hair colors match.
In the arena, Asil shouts, "Shut up," as an onlooker questions if it's the rumored monster.
2 men in the crowd gossip, suspecting Asil is too weak and that Munlef might forfeit. From his seat, the man with the mustache sips wine, noting that public opinion is turning.
The pink-haired woman bites her thumbnail in frustration.
She wonders what Asil is doing, just sulking in the middle of the match.
Aww. Asil holds its head, upset, as the pink-haired woman complains that it's just fiddling with its head.
Deciding to take action, the pink-haired woman cups her hands and shouts for Lady Asil.
She yells that she knows how to make hair grow, catching the attention of a nearby bald man.
Asil's eyes sparkle with hope at her words.
The pink-haired woman cheers for Lady Asil as the president of the Bald Association begs her for the secret.
Tusk. Fia scoffs, muttering that he could have ended things easily.
His hair bursts into flame as he turns and challenges Asil to bring it on.
With a confident smirk, Fia beckons his tiny opponent forward.
Asil charges forward with surprising speed.
Wham! It crashes headfirst into Fia with incredible force.
The Starapit divine beast is sent flying across the arena as Fia stops himself, looking back in shock. Enraged by the humiliation from a mere baldy, Fia's expression turns sinister.
Surrounded by a maelstrom of fire, he vows he won't go easy anymore.
As a vortex of fire erupts, onlookers realize they are seeing the true form of the divine beast, Fia.
Fia transforms into a magnificent, fiery phoenix as Asil watches from below.
The phoenix taunts Baldy, promising to call Asil big sister for life if it wins.
The blonde boy clenches his fist, realizing he should have stopped the provocation. The phoenix summons a massive ball of fire as the boy's eyes widen in alarm. Springing to his feet, the boy desperately shouts for Asil to get away.
A massive fireball hurtles towards the tiny, sweating Asil.
The boy yells for Asil to dodge as it stands frozen in the path of the fiery attack. A spectator eats a donut, remarking on the massive breath attack and wondering if this is the end. The blonde boy screams for the match to be stopped as Asil braces for the impact.
The man with the mustache calmly sips his wine, while the pink-haired woman watches in horror.
The blonde boy screams to stop the match immediately, convinced Asil isn't moving.
Asil's tiny pink wing twitches slightly. It steps into a small puddle, creating a glowing ripple.
The announcer shouts in surprise as a magical sigil shoots up from the ground before Asil.
The announcer dramatically presents Monlef's divine beast, Asil.
Boom! Asil dodges the massive fireball, revealing it can fly.
The blonde boy stares in shock, questioning if she can really fly.
Asil explains it's been practicing flying for a while, much to the annoyance of the pink-haired woman and blonde boy.
The phoenix scoffs that flight is just a trick and prepares another massive fireball.
He unleashes another fiery vortex, telling the tiny dragon to get ready.
Floating calmly, Asil thinks that it won't be underestimated again.
Asil's purple energy beam collides with the phoenix's giant fireball in a spectacular clash.
The announcer reports that the divine beast is bravely facing its opponent with a small breath attack. To everyone's surprise, Asil's small breath transforms into a sharp drill, piercing the center of the giant fireball.
Fia curses the stupid-looking lizard as his attack is broken through.
He wonders in disbelief how Asil discovered his technique's weakness.
How dare you? Asil's beam engulfs the phoenix completely.
The mighty phoenix is sent reeling back into the sky.
Fia reverts to his human form, enveloped in a fading aura.
Thud. He crashes hard onto the arena floor, defeated. The pink-haired woman gasps in shock while the blonde boy smiles in relieved satisfaction.
Asil floats triumphantly. The announcer declares the outcome is unbelievable and against all expectations.
Fia lies on the ground, knocked out cold with dizzy eyes.
The winner is about to be declared as Asil soars victoriously.
The little dragon winks, basking in its glorious victory.
Wow,
The announcer proclaims the friendly match ends with a victory for the Munlef duchy.
A hand gleefully shakes a heavy bag of gold coins. The pink-haired woman sits on a throne of cash, thrilled with all the money she won. An attendant asks Princess Iokaste if she is leaving now, as the pink-haired woman celebrates in the background. The princess smiles, satisfied after finding something interesting. The blonde boy calmly confronts Duke Starapit on a balcony. He demands an apology for the reckless use of the divine beast and the deaths of Starapit's knights. He also calls out the Duke for insulting his house, leaving Starapit looking annoyed.
Duke Starapit looks around nervously, realizing that with so many people watching, he has no choice.
He forces an apology, admitting he underestimated Munlef's strength, while inwardly seething that it's all bull.
Later, Duke Starapit fumes in a dark room, enraged that his divine beast lost to that tiny lizard with the same fire attribute. His only comfort is the diamond mine he received as a reward for a past subjugation. He plans to sell the mine to restore his honor, but a voice notes that he hasn't changed.
Startled, the Duke hears the voice call him a conscienceless person, just as he was as a child.
A hooded blonde man appears behind him, asking if he's wrong, and calling him an old classmate.
The mysterious blonde man looks down at the Duke with a cold expression. Stuttering, Duke Starapit points a shaky finger at the intruder. He then notices a small fox rubbing against the intruder's leg. The Duke realizes who his visitor is, calling out the name Eckhart. He demands to know how Eckhart got there, but Eckhart mocks him for his poor security. Suddenly, a woman's frantic shouts about an intruder echo from outside. Her cries change as she screams about a fire. She reports a fire in the grain warehouse, but Eckhart calmly assures the Duke there will be no casualties. Eckhart coolly states he ensured no one was inside before starting the fire, causing Starapet to call him a maniac.
Questioning how Eckhart escaped confinement, Starapet watches as the man easily opens his safe.
Eckhart takes a document declaring he is claiming the royal reward on behalf of Munlef. As the Duke yells in protest, a sword is suddenly at his throat.
Eckhart reminds him that as a commoner who has lost everything, he has nothing left to lose by killing the Duke.
A terrified Duke Starapit begs him to put down the sword as Eckhart considers his plea.
The man with the mustache wants compensation for emotional damage.
He threatens to have a seal tried by the sacred court. He warns the hooded man that divine beast abuse is a serious crime. He reminds the man of his own trial, threatening to ruin Munlef. The hooded man, Eckhart, calmly anticipates his threats. The fox presents a document shocking Duke Starapit. The document reveals Starapit's pledge to lend his divine beast for a civil war.
Eckhart coldly asks who truly abused a divine beast now.
Elsewhere, two men panic as the warehouse fire spreads. The scene shifts to a grand, brightly lit estate at night. Inside a lavish hall, guests celebrate the arrival of a brilliant man. One man tearfully declares that the Lord Duke is receiving heaven's blessings.
Wah! As the crowd cheers, the blonde boy holds a seal high.
Clink! A seal joyfully raises its cup for a toast with the guests.
Asil sips its drink, finding it very refreshing.
On a quiet balcony, Asil notes the energetic crowd.
Asil settles onto a swing, deciding it's time for a rest. Eckhart appears suddenly, greeting the little dragon as Kid.
Asil looks up in shock, wondering why its father is here.
Eckhart presents a gift, and Asil asks what it is. He reveals a jeweled fishing rod and a bundle of papers.
Asil looks utterly baffled by the strange gift.
Eckhart explains the gifts, refuses to see his son, and tells Asil to keep his visit a secret, leaving the little dragon to wonder why its father avoids its husband.
Asil's thoughts linger in the quiet, moonlit garden.
Later, Asil thinks about the present meant for its husband.
The blonde boy finds a seal tangled in a pink ribbon, asking if its father was here.
Asil shakes its head no, but the boy knows it cannot lie.
He looks at the documents, conflicted over his father who both ruined and saved their family.
He recalls his lonely childhood and angrily crumples the paper.
He admits he couldn't bring himself to hunt his father down after he escaped. Looking over at the little dragon, he softly calls out its name. He asks himself if he's a bad person for wanting to simply hate his father. His inner turmoil continues as he questions his own feelings. A seal suddenly lands before him, getting his attention. A seal reassures him that he is not a bad person, surprising the boy. A seal fondly recalls its husband finding its lost handkerchief. It then remembers him celebrating his birthday with a beautiful gift. A memory surfaces of the boys smiling brightly during a game of dodge. Asil wiggles happily, and the boy is moved to tears by its kindness. Asil wonders why he is silent as the boy quietly wipes his eyes. The boy offers a gentle, grateful smile. Asil remembers being told the relationship between its husband and father is strained.
In a happy memory, Asil is pampered with pets and cookies. A vision appears of a man with large, elegant pink wings. Asil reveals its name came from its biological father. It remembers its father leaving on a trip just after it hatched, never to return. Asil falls asleep, wondering where its biological father is now. The scene opens on a beautiful sunlit mansion with a large greenhouse. A woman in a garden enjoys sweets, pleased with her winnings from the match. The blue-haired woman smirks about her secret funds, then sees the blonde boy and Asil, remarking that she never thought she'd benefit from the Munleft Duke. The blue-haired woman fans Asil, praising the little divine beast for working hard. Asil puffs out its chest, looking incredibly proud of itself. While the woman sips tea, Asil holds a book and daydreams about becoming a fierce dragon, only to be startled by her sudden, bright smile. She leans in with a playful smirk, asking if Asil is copying her. She knowingly declares that anyone can tell it is, then changes the subject. The woman asks the cute divine beast to step outside so she can speak to the Duke alone. The blonde boy insists Asil can stay, but she argues that she wants privacy without extra ears around.
After she threatens to send another marriage proposal, the boy relents and asks Asil to go play outside for a bit.
Now alone, the woman turns to the Duke, saying she wants to ask him something.
He looks at her in surprise, questioning her talk of peace. She giggles at his baffled expression, which the narration notes is utterly out of place for him. The boy demands to know her intentions, but she insists he answer her question first. He explains the Empire's obsession with divine beasts is really all because of the Crown Prince. She reveals the Crown Prince has long regretted the royal family's lack of a divine beast and has been researching ways to obtain one. The boy's summoning magic, she explains, was a direct result of that research. She warns him that the Crown Prince planned to blame him and strip him of his title if anything went wrong. He asks why she's telling him this, and she replies that his downfall would only strengthen the Crown Prince's power. After a tense pause, the boy decides to share classified palace intelligence with her. He gravely informs the shocked woman that war is about to break out. Elsewhere, Asil sulks alone in an opulent, empty hall. It sits down with a huff, grumbling that its husband is mean for kicking it out. Asil vows to cause chaos in revenge, but its plotting is interrupted when a silver-haired man calls for Countess Erzsébet. Startled by the voice, Asil turns its head sharply. It sees a man in an elegant purple coat and recognizes him instantly. Asil realizes the people here are pretending to be something they're not, as the man smirks knowingly. A map shows the imperial palace at the center of power in the Iokaste Empire. The narrative explains that the Grand Temple actually manages the divine beasts, a tradition disguised as communing with the gods.
4 high priests oversee this duty, and one of them angrily slams his fist on a table, unable to calm down.
This is identified as the high priest in charge of Duke Sterapit's divine beast.
Another priest with blue hair smirks, questioning what will happen to the authority of the existing divine beasts.
The first priest laughs nervously, thinking to himself that he's just playing along with the conversation. The blue-haired priest internally worries about his unstable position now that Munlef has a cute divine beast that no one recognizes as legitimate.
The brown-haired priest tearfully calls the summoned creature a disgrace to the temple, though His Eminence viewed it as a blessing.
The mysterious man from before is seen from behind, now wearing a grand fur-collared cloak.
The brown-haired priest furiously demands an investigation for heresy, shocking his blue-haired colleague.
The scene shifts to introduce a new figure, the cold-blooded Count Arsian Erzabeth.
Formerly an inquisitor for the temple, Count Erzabeth earned his noble title after saving a city from a monster overrun.
The blue-haired priest expresses faith in the Count's fairness, but questions proceeding without consulting the other 2 high priests. The brown-haired priest dismisses his concerns with a sinister smile, declaring that all that matters is stripping the divine beast of its title.
The scene transitions, showing the exterior of a magnificent Gothic-style mansion.
The camera pans up to a lavishly decorated ceiling inside the mansion.
Asil lies on a plush bed, gazing up at the ornate ceiling.
A box full of glittering treasures, including perfumes and coins, is opened.
Count Erzabeth looks on thoughtfully, wondering about the identity of a mysterious beastkin.
As he walks through the grand room, he feels a strange sense of familiarity with the presence he just felt, as Asil watches him leave.
Lying beside the sleeping blonde boy, Asil hopes to meet the Count again to ask for a way to the beastkin forest.
Duke Sterapit stands over the bed, smiling warmly down at the sleeping Asil.
The box of dazzling gifts is shown again, its contents sparkling.
A pink-haired girl enters the room and addresses Asil, while Duke Sterapit admits his mind had wandered.
She beams with pride as she presents her gift, a novelty bottle of soap decorated with a cartoon of the Duke.
Duke Sterapit questions why the pink-haired girl gave hair tonic to a child.
He offers to keep the tonic safe for Asil, but it clutches the bottle, refusing. They warn Asil that hair tonic will make it bald, stunning the little dragon.
As Asil sulks, the Duke asks the girl if she heard an inquisitor is coming.
Yeah, she panics, realizing it must be Lord Arsian, the story's final villain. She recalls how Arsian pretended to be a holy knight, only to betray the saintess Selena.
She also remembers his deep grudge against House Munlef, cursing the Duke as he died.
The girl imagines a horrifying scene of the Inquisitor about to cook Asil in a cauldron.
Asil's questioning Pia snaps her out of her dark thoughts. The Duke explains that even a fierce dragon like Asil must know when to be cautious. Asil thoughtfully repeats that even a fierce dragon must know when to back down. With renewed determination, the little dragon puffs out its chest. The scene transitions to the sunlit estate grounds. A magnificent, ornate fountain glitters in the garden. However, a door quietly creaks open. The narration reveals Azil's resolve lasted only 3 days as it peeks out with a bunny.
Asil starts a game of hide-and-seek, telling its bunny friend to hide.
After counting to 10, it shouts, "Ready or not, here I come." It waddles around the grand room, searching for the bunny.
The little dragon peeks around a corner, still searching.
It bumps into a man's leg while worrying a human may have roasted its friend. Thump! Asil stumbles backward with a startled Kai. Ack! The little dragon looks up in total shock. It recognizes the adult beastkin it saw before, now dressed formally.
The man, Count Erzabeth, coolly identifies Asil as a black dragon beastkin,